All right, rabbis, now we are learning about the final step of Jewish service of God, namely activating your soul. Activating that Jewish soul. The Jewish soul is composed of four, according to this discourse, as four aspects to it. Four aspects. One of this corresponds to the Yud of God's name, one to the Hey of God's name, one to the Vav of God's name, and one to the Hey of God's name. The job is to bring the Yud of God's name all the way down. What does this mean? Practically speaking, the Yud is awareness that all there is God. There is nothing except for Him. God is creating everything, every second brand new. Our whole being, our whole essence, our whole lives, our bodies, the whole world, everything depends on God creating it every single instant. And this same God wants us to be active. He wants us to fix the world up. This is His world, but He wants us to fix it up. How do you fix it up? By the Torah. Okay, but we didn't get to that. First of all, you have to have the first realization. That's called chachma, or bittul, or negation, or faith. Above understanding that God is creating everything in the world. This is a feeling which is totally against human nature, seems totally nonsensical, doesn't feel true. There's no proof for it, but it's the truth. And that's the truth that the Jewish people have to bring to the world, that God is infinitely good and that God creates everything. Everything, constantly. And He creates everything for a purpose, namely that the whole world should be improved, has to be made better. But first of all, we have to have this feeling that what they call Ein Od Milvado. There's nothing except for God. That's Yud. Then we have to bring this Yud, this feeling of the oneness of God, we have to bring it into our understanding. We have to try to understand as much as we can about God as possible, while still holding on to this feeling of I am really nothing. I am a creation. I am a miracle being created by God. The whole world is a miracle every second. Incredible. Ma rabu masecha, ma gadlu masecha. But at the same time, simultaneously, we have to use our understanding. We have to use all of our powers, we'll see, but we have an obligation to God to use all of our talents and potential to make the world a better place. Including, of course, science and art and music and everything that will make the world a better place, more in tune with with harmony. We have to do it. But it can't be on our terms. It has to be on the terms of the Torah. That was the big problem with like Napoleon. Napoleon had these wonderful ideas, or Stalin. They had these wonderful ideas of brotherhood and unity and etc. But they wanted to do it on their terms. They wanted to make up the laws. As a result, there came tremendous bloodbaths. So let's do it with the big world is just a macrocosm of the small world, the microcosm. The Rebbe once said, somebody asked the Rebbe the same question you just asked, what are we going to do about all the non-Jews in the world that hate us and they want to destroy us? Right? We have to remember just 70 years ago when the Germans were killing Jews, the whole world was quiet. They wouldn't even let Jews come into their country. But they wouldn't even let Jews run. What are we going to do? So the Rebbe said, every Jew, without exception, has a little anti-Semite inside of him. Every Jew has it. A little anti-Semite. If we can control the anti-Semite inside of us, then we can control the anti-Semite outside of us. But if we don't control the anti-Semite inside of us, the Jews have self-hatred, or they don't like the one God, or they're atheists, or whatever. They don't like the Torah. If we can control the anti-Semite inside of us, then we can control the anti-Semite outside. So that's the answer to making world peace and world meaning is if we can put peace and meaning inside of ourselves, if we can ourselves integrate this feeling of the oneness of God into our understanding and then into our emotions, then we can also shine up the rest of the world. So let's see how to do it on our own. We talked about what this Yud is. We talked about in the second chapter, what is Yud? And we talked about what is the Hey, understanding. Then we talked about, now we're talking about Vav. Vav is the gematria 6, and it stands for the 6 emotions. Okay, says the Rebbe, there's emotions of the animal soul, or the natural soul, or the human soul, if you want to call it. And there are the emotions of the godly soul. The emotions of the godly soul are what we're talking about here. We're talking about the godly soul in every Jew, right? It's in the form of Yud, and then Hey, then Vav, and then Hey. Yud is Chachma, faith. Hey is understanding. Vav is the emotions. Now let's talk about these emotions. The emotions of the godly soul. In the emotions of the godly soul, there is what's called the outside of the godly soul and the inside of the godly soul. Or another way we can say it, the outside of the heart and the inside of the heart. Okay, the outside of the heart is emotions. The inside of the heart is also emotions, but it's different types of emotions. The outside of the heart are emotions that you have to make. The inside of the heart are emotions that are already there. Let's take an example in the animal soul, right? The animal soul. There are certain emotions that you have to make, and there are certain emotions that come naturally. For instance, show a person money. Show a person money, immediately he gets emotional. You don't have to explain it to him. You don't have to work on it. You don't have to convince him, right? Show this person money, that the money can be yours. He's excited. He's excited. As soon as he's aware, he has to use his mind a little bit just to be aware. But the emotions are pop immediately. Right? He sees the emotions. Show an alcoholic alcohol, excited. Right? Show a person who's a gambling addict a roulette wheel or whatever it is, what do you like here, poker, a casino. Oh, he's excited. It's automatic. Right? There are certain things in the animal soul that are automatic. You don't have to work on it. You don't have to convince yourself. You know, it's automatic. It's an automatic thing. The more you think about it, you can think about it and have the emotions simultaneously. It's no problem. That's called the inside of the animal soul. Automatic emotions, right? Road rage, automatic. Happens. You messed with me, automatic, right? Automatic emotions. That's called the inside of the animal soul, or the inside of the natural heart. Natural heart. Then what about the outside of the natural heart? The outside of the natural heart are things you have to convince yourself of, right? Like the drunkard, he has to go to classes, AA, and they convince him, it's not good to drink. Don't drink. You're destroying your life. You're out of control, right? It's a bad thing. It's because of your bad character traits. That's why you drink. You're a fool. It's wrong. You can do other things. There's alternatives to drinking. You don't have to be drunk all the time. The person has to work on it. He has to then go, right? The person who's naturally has an anger, he has to go to anger control classes. That's called the outside of the heart. That's the outside of the natural. These are ideas that you have to really work on. Right? You have to really work on these ideas. In those cases where you have to work on these ideas, on these emotions, in the outside of the heart, in order to stop yourself from doing something, what you're thinking. As long as you're thinking, you don't have any emotions. If you want, though, to have a positive emotion, right, you have to get excited about golf. Golf. Your boss is a golfer, and he invites you to golf with him, and you have to, when you go, have to give him a genuine smile. He'll catch it in a second if you're faking it, right? You wrote down, you heard that when you made your application for the thing, you heard that he likes golf. So you wrote down, I like golf, which in fact you don't like golf. But now he invites you, I understand you like golf. Is that right, Farbish? Oh yes, sir, I love the game. I always love the game. Would you like to, how do you say, have a few rounds with me? Oh yes, wow, I sure would love to do that, right? He goes to his friends and says, listen, I got to get out of this house with the stomach aches. You're nuts. The boss invited you to play golf with him, and you're going to turn it down. You know what this is? Everybody's going crazy to go with the ball. You have to go. So he goes and he takes lessons. Crash course. Lessons. He takes lessons of golfing. He asks the boss 2 weeks. He takes lessons. He tells him he hates it. He can't stand it. Right? But he has to think, listen, there's really something to this golf. You know, you have to have precision, you have to have power, you have to have patience. There's all these good things you have to have, right? And he thinks about it. You have precision, power, patience, you have sportsmanship. He's thinking about all these ideas, and it means nothing to him, right? But he has to get excited. How does he get excited? The way he gets excited is he has to stop thinking about these things. If he thinks about it, he's never going to get excited. He's always thinking. His mind's going to, he has to convince himself. As soon as his thoughts go away and he starts to play, he says, okay, now I'm going to start feeling accuracy, power, patience, concentration, right? Think of all these things. As soon as he stops thinking about it, then he can have the emotion. As all the time he's thinking, the thinking interferes with his emotions. That's called the outside of the heart. The outside of the heart is all the time that you're thinking, you can't have any emotions. But the inside of the heart is, you can think and have emotions all the time because you're emotional about something that it clicks by you. You understand? It clicks by you. Right? The alcoholic sees alcohol, he likes it. He can think as much as he wants to. The more he thinks, the more he's going to like it because it's a thing that clicks by him, right? Us in this class, I don't know about you people. I happen to be that. I'm not an alcoholic. I can drink. I like to drink very much. We sit in friends with Fabringas and we drink. I enjoy it very much. But I can go for the rest of my life and never drink. I care less about it. Other people could not care. They cannot do it, right? They think about it all the time. You give them, or you put them into a room. They can be that they're off. I read a story about this Rabbi Twersky. He says there was some guy that he was an alcoholic and he got off of it. He had to fight against it. Before they took classes. He got off for 25 years. He went to university, became a psychologist. He opened up a center for Alcoholics Anonymous. 25 years he was off of it. He took one drink. It was at a party. One drink and he went back on. Couldn't live without it. He just felt so tremendously uncomfortable without drinking. After he took that first drink, so bad that he had to, it just talked to him. It just opened up something. A person like that, he can think and have the emotions at the same time because it's in the essence of his animal soul. But if he wants to have any other emotions, for instance, to start to think about God, to get excited about Hashem, to love Hashem, to fear Hashem, that's not natural. That he has to work on, he has to force himself, right? And then, when can he have the emotion? When he stops thinking. He has to stop thinking. He has to stop thinking. About all the time he's thinking, he's not going to have the emotion of loving God, or fearing God, or loving every Jew, or loving the Torah, he's not going to have those feelings. He has to stop thinking, and then let his heart take over. Like with the golf, he has to let his heart take over. But all the time your mind is working, your emotions aren't working. That's the external heart. The internal heart is you can do both at the same time. That we just talked about the animal soul. Now let's talk about the godly soul. The godly soul, the external of the godly soul is, like I said, thinking about God, forcing yourself to serve God for it. But down deep inside of your godly soul is a natural love for God. Like the alcoholic naturally loves alcohol, right? But that's a false thing. That's a fault. Every Jew naturally has a love for God. Every Jew has a natural fear for God. Why? Not because of what God does for me, but because the fact is that all there is God. And God creates the world. God is the ultimate, the definition of good comes from God. God creates good. The goodness of Hashem, He creates everything. It's so intense, and the godly soul feels it. That's what a Jew is. The essence of a Jewish soul feels the goodness of God. So that's what the Rebbe is saying. Look. Okay, so he says, all the time that in the outside of the heart, that you're thinking about God, you're not going to have any emotions. Avo. Let's say the last word in line is panemius. See, panemius? Avo, but. See, last word in the line is panemius. Avo, but. Panemius halev. The inside of your heart. The inside of the godly heart. And they are midos. These are emotions. Habilti murgashot. They are not felt. It's what's called hidden love. Hidden love. You with me, Akiva?
Yes.
They are not felt. This is what's called hidden love for God. Every Jew has it down deep in his soul, a hidden love for God. Umeir bahem, and it shines in these emotions. A hidden love and a hidden for fear of God. Call Giloi Or, all of the revealed light, Shebamoach, in the brain. In other words, the inside of the heart, the inside of your the godly emotions, they are aware of God all the time. So it's not a contradiction. In the outside of your heart, intellect is a contradiction to emotion. all the time a person is intellectual, the more intellectual he is, the less emotional he is. If he wants to get emotional, he has to turn off his intellect. Right? He has to turn off his intellect. The professor, when he's giving a lecture about something in front of the class, if he starts getting emotional, then he can't talk and he can't think either. Right? His intellect goes away, then he becomes emotional. It's two opposites, intellect and emotion. Intellect is cold, it's calm. Emotion is warm, it's active. Can't be both of them together. When? In the outside of your heart. But in the inside of the Jewish heart, they can be together. Why? Because these emotions are what's called hidden emotions. Deep, 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 deep emotions, deep, tremendously deep love for God that's inside of every Jew.
So does it come around the
Where's this? After the word murgashot, put a comma. Umeir bahem, and that shines in these emotions, these hidden emotions, in the essence of your heart, called gilui or, all of the revealed light, shebamoach, which is in your power of awareness. In other words, the more awareness of God, the more emotions there are in the essence of your Jewish soul. And we're talking about even a higher type of awareness. What's the awareness we began in the beginning of the Maamar? This letter Yud. This is the Gilui, the revelation, the Bechinas Eitan, of the level of Eitan. We said that's the Chachma, the faith of the Jewish soul, above understanding. This is even higher than these emotions. Hu Lamaila Yoter is even higher than these hidden emotions. V'hu Yoter, and it is higher mi bechinat than the level of bilti murgash, of not felt, of these hidden emotions. In other words, these unfelt emotions, concealed emotions, what's called ahava mesuteret, the hidden love, the penimit alev of the inside of your heart. These emotions in your heart are love of God, but they're concealed. But even higher than that, even more concealed, is this level of Eitan, the power of your soul. Vahu Inyan, and this is the topic of Ta'alumat Lev. How do you call it? The mystery of the heart. Oh. Even deeper than not felt. Vahain, and they are bilti hit pa'alut, and they are not excited. This is the natural attachment of a Jew to God, a natural love. It's not excited. It's just so clinging and so one that there's no excitement there. It's almost like sometimes you see a little child when he's looking for his mother. He's crying, right? Sees his mother. Oh, his mother, he's crying. He loves his mother so much. But as soon as he gets to his mother and she holds him, he stops crying. Then he's just, right? That's it. He's with his mother. He's one. There's no emotions. There's no anything. Oh, he's quiet. He's united with his mother. But there are emotions. The reason he's so attached because of love, intense love of his mother, and also intense fear of being separated from his mother. He doesn't want to, but you don't see the emotions. The hidden deep. The same thing with a Jew. A Jew is one with God. He's one. But this oneness of God is above feeling. It's such a natural thing. It's such a natural oneness. But it's packed with emotion. But they're emotions that aren't revealed emotions. They're hidden emotions, right? Like the little child with his mother. You can't see the emotions there. Ukamo, like bechin at the level of hakrirut to chachma. Just like this level of the coldness of chachma. Now usually coldness is the opposite of holiness. Holiness is usually warm and alive. But this coldness is talking about a different type of coldness. This is talking about it's too high to be warm. It's too high to show any warmth. Warmth is already friction. There's something there. This is oneness with God. It's called, if you want to call it, coldness. It's the essence of God that never changes. This is where the essence of the Jewish heart is. This is bechinas bittul atzmi. This is a complete unification with the oneness of God. Okay, so what's the Rebbe saying now? We're taking this level Yud, which is the essence connection of a Jew with God. And we're bringing it into the letter Hey, which is understanding. And then we're bringing it down even more into the emotions. First of all, the emotions of the godly soul, total. And then we'll see Nachal Eitan. And then it becomes the river of Eitan, the river of this essential power. Hakavana, the intention is, shebim midos, that in your emotions, not just your emotions of your godly soul, the emotions even of the animal soul, of your natural soul, because that's what the Jews say. We say God is one. It's not there's one God in the heavens and one God in the synagogue and one God in the Torah, and then there's another God in the world. It's not so. There's only one God creates everything. But what about in ourselves? We have to be, to represent that. We have to, how do we say, to internalize this ourselves. We have to make oneness in ourselves first before we make oneness in the world. So that's what it means. The intention is, shibim midos, that in your emotions, yihiyeh will be habital, this surrender of the level of chachma. That your emotions, in other words, what does it mean? That you will only react the way God wants. There will not be any more lying in the world, no more wars in the world, no more lust in the world. People won't kill the next door neighbor for his wife or for his money or for his house or for his, the guy drives over my lawn, right? I'm going to get rid of him, right? There won't be any, right? No, it's not an exaggeration. I'm serious. There won't be any more lawn murders. There's such things. Hard to believe, right? Some people will, their neighbor, they don't care about the next neighbor's wife or his money or anything. But that guy drives over my lawn, he's going to get it. That's it, right? I've spoken to him about it. I didn't exactly speak to him about it. I looked at him, he knows, right? People do crazy things. There won't be such things like that. There won't be any more addictions. There won't be any more pain. People won't hurt each other anymore. Won't be such a thing. There won't be any more murders and robberies and things like that. Why? Because the emotions will be the way God creates the whole world. He can create the whole world. He can provide. He didn't create me just so that I'll steal. I'll go against what he wants. If he creates me, he can provide for me. Right? But because there's so much stealing, that was one of the big things of communism. Because there's certain people that they're selfish and that they have all the money and they don't distribute the wealth. So we have to take these people who are selfish and what? Kill them. Take all their money. That's not what you're supposed to do. You take the people who are selfish and educate them. Right? Of course, that's what we're doing. We're educating them. Right? We have the quick program, which is 1 second, bullet in the head, and that educates them. They'll never be selfish again. Never be selfish again. It always works. Right?
What is it going to be that's going to make life interesting? If you eliminate all these things, life is not going to be very interesting.
You know, that's what all the addicts say. That's all the addicts say. All the addicts say, if I don't gamble, what am I going to do? Right? What am I going to do with my time? What am I going to do? Right? The lady that's, God forbid, she's the prostitute. She takes drugs. She sells herself on the street. What do you want me to do? Sit at home all night, do nothing? To do nothing, right? The murderer, well, not to murder anymore. What are you talking about? To go out and murder people, right? And Hitler stands up and says, we have to make a war against Belgium. Everybody says, yeah. And he says, no, we shouldn't do that. What are you going to do? Sit at home, do nothing?
Where's murdering people? Come on, get into it.
Yeah, get into it. What's wrong? You're some sort of you have to go in for treatments. Take a pill. You don't like to murder people? What's the story? Right? What does it mean? The world is very tricky. The world, after a person does something wrong, the world convinces him, the world conquers him. The world conquers him. And it makes the person believe that this is the only way. There is no alternative. There is no alternative. Right? There's no such thing as being honest, being faithful, being patient, being loving. What are you talking about? It's dog eat dog. You got to get them before they get you. Right? All these ideas in the world, there's all these sayings that are in the world, that make a person egotistical. A person thinks only about himself, and he thinks that's the whole world. There's whole philosophies about it. All the existentialists and these people, I remember they say this famous philosopher, John Paul Sartre. He was a big communist, a huge communist, super communist, and he wanted to hide the facts that Stalin was killing people. He wanted to hide the facts. There was, like in the 30s, it was called the Great Purge in Russia, where they killed 1 million people, 2 million people, something like that, on purpose. They shot him, they killed him. Right? He wanted to hide the fact because he didn't want people to think that communism was good. Because he believed that they say there was a Bertrand Russell, he was a famous philosopher. Someone came to him, and he was also a mathematician. Someone came to him and said, your philosophy, your ideas are good, but it doesn't match the facts. It doesn't match the facts. The facts contradict. So he said, so much worse for the facts. What do I care about the facts? Right? A person sometimes gets out crazy in his mind, and he thinks the whole world is that way. Right? The whole world is that way. What are we going to do without a gambling? What are you going to do without television? What can you do without television? I remember I used to be sold on television. I used to have battles with my sister on watching. She wants to watch Popeye. I wanted to watch whatever it is, Donald Duck. Right? Big wars. She saw this program 7 times already. He said, yeah, but he saw it 10 times. I said, yeah, but I enjoy it. What are you going to do if you don't have television? No, I don't have television. I don't watch television. I don't watch television. I don't miss it. I don't know how people could watch television. I don't have time in the day. How could people have watched television? And even now, I used to go to my father, a blessed memory. I went to my father's house. He used to watch television. I watched television. I was glued in. The actors are good. The programs are interesting. It's stupid. You waste all your time. There's a good one. Right? I don't even know what to buy. But listen, what are we talking about? A person whose life is meaningful. His life is meaningful. First of all, God provides meaning in life. There is meaning in life. Right? People usually, they go running after desires and pleasures and the jet set and all this stuff. They're people without meaning in life. Once a person has meaning, I remember I used to have these friends, terrible guys. I mean, these people, some of them were from jail, and a lot of them I didn't even know how bad they were. They used to do things, I was never part of their things, but I was friends with them. I used to sing in bars, and so I was friends with these guys. And all of them, they were wild and they were crazy until they had a baby. Like they had a child. Or their wife wanted to take the child. They were going to get divorced. Then they would start battle over the child. A big battle. Who was going to get the child? You're not going to get the child. I'm going to get the child. Why do they care about the child? Well, could they care? Then some of them, of course, they got smart and they started not caring about the children. Right? And then in the end, they just became bar bums. They sat at the end of if they were 50 years old, they looked like they were 100 years old. Right? But it had no meaning. Their life had no meaning. A person, when he has meaning, then he doesn't want to run around all the time and do crazy things. Right? He has meaning in his life. Some sort of beauty, some sort of harmony, or the highest type of meaning is that he wants to do good because it's ultimate. There's ultimate good, ultimate meaning. A person wants to have meaning in his life. When he does, then the prostitute won't sell herself anymore, and the gambler won't. That's the idea of Mashiach. That's what we want. That life should be meaningful. It should be full of blessing and joy. Right? That's the idea of what we're talking about. So a person won't be bored anymore. Exactly the opposite. The ones who get bored are the ones who think they have to act all the time. Then if they're 5 seconds, they're not doing anything, or the television doesn't work. I remember in America, in Detroit, it was in the 60s, the televisions went off, the electricity went off, and the people went on a riot. They rioted. They destroyed like 10, 12, 20 square blocks. They burned the whole place down because they were bored. They had nothing to do. Right? They were bored. It happened to be it was in the summer. And the televisions went out. They had nothing to do, and the fans went up. They were standing on the street. They had no diversion. What happened? They were bored. Right? Another, huh? Listen, it happened to be that this was, that was the area, but it didn't have to be that way. There's other people that would do the same thing. It just happened to be they were in the inner city and whatever it is, and there was all this propaganda at that time, that the blacks, we have the black power, and the blacks are kept down, and we got to kill them all, we got this power to the people. It was a time there was fermenting discomfort, of violence and things like that. But in the end, it did nothing. I remember there was a famous thing, Lyndon B. Johnson. He was a president. It was in the time of the war. So he made this program which was called Head Start program. And he realized that the blacks in America were really being discriminated against and they weren't given opportunity. That's what he wanted, opportunity. Let's see. Right? Everybody said, blacks are stupid, blacks are this. So let's see, let's educate them. Give them at least a chance. And then because it's a vicious circle that it keeps it, let's educate them. We'll break out of the whole thing. We'll give them more the right to vote, and we'll encourage them, and we'll give them education, and we'll educate them all over. And they did, and a lot of them, after a while, they realized that they were the same as everybody. They became intelligent. They were just the same thing. Good. But what happened? He gave them these rights, and what did they do? And immediately, what was their reaction? They rioted. They rioted. They couldn't figure out. There were big riots in the Watts district. There were riots all over. They burned, they killed, they destroyed. He was broken. He was destroyed. I remember Lyndon Johnson. He didn't know what to say. He was just totally broken by the whole thing. He couldn't understand why. He was giving rights to people, right? And they should have at least said, okay, thank you, you're not giving us enough or something like that. Good, I can understand. Now you're giving us right. Want to be angry, be angry. What are they rioting for? It was like a mass. Suddenly, everybody just woke up and they all started, wow, this is it, we're getting rights. Let's riot, let's burn it. He couldn't figure it out. To this day, they didn't figure it out. They haven't figured out what happened. I think Detroit is just now coming out of the whole thing. I think just now they're building, I don't know. I haven't been there. I live in Detroit. But I wasn't there at the time. I was bopping around with my friends in California. And it just happened to be when I read about all the riots that was going on. Anyway, what's he saying? If people have meaning, true meaning in their life, right? What does it mean, meaning? That you attach yourself to the Creator. You're being created. You're being created not to suffer, and you're not being created to have pleasures. You're being created to have meaning. Everybody has their own uniqueness to bring out your unique personality. There's this psychiatrist that speaks in more medical terms, but that's the Rebbe's message. That's the message of Judaism. Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl speaks about this in more medical terms, how you can use meaning in order to heal people. He's fantastic. He's just really, really amazing. Just amazing. I just can't get over his ideas. But it's the same ideas as the Rebbe, the same ideas. But he uses it in medical sense. Here the Rebbe is using it for people who are already healthy. How to become attached more to truth, to who you really are. Let's go. So that's what it means. Nachal Eitan Hakavana. The intention is midos, that in the emotions, in your animal emotions, will be habitl, this surrender, the surrender to meaning, if you want to call it, the surrender to life, the bechinas of the level of Chachma. Azai, then, Naseh, there is made eshapcha, transformation, chashucha, of darkness, lenahora, to light. Then the whole world will be transformed. Kamosh Katuv, like it says, umayan, and a well, a spring, quote, umayan, and a spring, mi beit Hashem, from the house of God, Yatsa, or Yetzeh, will go out. Vihishka, and it will irrigate, it will water at Nachal Shittim, the river of Shittim. What's the river of Shittim? The river of Shittim is Shittim. This river of Shittim, hu shtus, is the craziness, the insanity, de le umat zeh. Write this down. De of le umat, 3 words. De, well, actually 2 words. De